AI can clone my voice, and we've already started to see problems in that area. And while there are two areas that you will always have a job, AI or cybersecurity. You get a degree in one of those, you are set for life. Don't sit there and pretend it didn't happen. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to hide the fact. Don't wait for some sort of press release. Transparency is the best way to help you maintain trust.
You're listening to the Ransomware Rewind, where we break down the latest cyber threats, data breaches, and security solutions that matter to you and your business. Stay secure. Stay informed. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Ransomware Rewind podcast, where we dive into digital transformation and cybersecurity. This week we have Chris Hood. Chris is an expert in customer experience. And what Chris is going to talk to us about today is what management should do in the event of a breach or any sort of cybersecurity incident and how to maintain customers. It's really interesting because Chris is going to show us the human side of cybersecurity and what to do in an event of a breach. I hope you enjoy the show. We got a lot of value of it.
I'm your host, Joe Earl, with my co-host, Mike Dowdy. He's a seasoned digital strategist, keynote speaker, and author of The Customer Transformation, a 7-stage strategy for customer alignment and business value. With over 3 decades of experience, Chris has led the strategy and initiatives for tech giants like Google and other media powerhouses like Fox and Disney. He hosts the Chris Hood Digital Show, where he explores how technology and human connection shape the modern business landscape. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You got it. Thanks for being on, spending a Friday with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, in your work, as far as like customer transformation, how do you see ransomware attacks impacting customer trust? And what strategies can businesses employ to rebuild that trust after an incident? So picture like a post-incident, someone will say, hey, Chris, my customers are having a bad experience. What would you tell that person?
Sure. Well, there's a lot to tackle in this, right?
Yeah.
We've got the bad experience is the first thing. We've got a potential trust issue because of an attack. And then you also have perception, which is a huge part of this. I'm going to start with perception just because I think it's an area that most people don't think about. And that is that you could be an organization that has a bad experience, and the perception is that I might not trust you, right? You don't even necessarily have to have an attack that has been put onto your organization for there still to be a bad experience and for there still to be a lack of trust in what your organization is presenting. And that's something that we have to think about, and we can definitely get into that some more. And I'll give you some examples of that along the way. But it is absolutely incredibly challenging to rebuild trust after you've lost it. And so what we have seen, especially in history, whether it's been a credit card breach or passwords have been leaked, we've seen large organizations, even credit unions that have, credit bureaus that have lost that trust. And I think sometimes, depending upon how large the organization is, the ability to regain that trust can be a little easier than if you're a smaller organization, right? And if you have good experience to begin with, then if something goes wrong, those customers are more likely to stick with you during bad times than, say, if you have bad experience and then you lose their trust, then most likely they're gone and it's going to cost you the business. So you can build up a lot of equity by having good experiences and be able to kind of weather that storm if you handle it correctly. We kind of look at this like any relationship that you want to look at. If you're married and there's a challenge within the relationship, odds
Yep.
are that you might be able to get through that if you've built up enough trust in the long run. Or you might be willing to work it out, go to therapy, any of those types of things. But if it's like a new relationship and I just met you and I've lost that trust on, say, the first or second date, I'm probably not coming back, right? Um, and
Right.
so I think if you look at it in that type of perspective, then you can understand how building up that relationship and building up that trust throughout time to, we hope that you never get attacked with some sort of ransomware. But if you do, you're at least have enough trust built up that you might be able to weather that storm in the long run.
You were talking about experiences. Well, what's a what's a quote unquote good experience? What would you give it? Could you give us some
Well,
examples?
yeah. So let's take a perspective again as to how did we build this trust, and we'll go back to what I said earlier about perception. There could be a perception that you are an illegal company, whether or not you are or not.
Hmm.
Right? I could not trust you just based on the experience. Here's a great example of it. There are a lot of organizations out there, especially sales that are online, that will do anything and everything to make you give them your credit card and facilitate a transaction. Now, those might be actually legitimate businesses, very easy to sign up, very easy to subscribe. But then when you get ready to unsubscribe, it is impossible.
Yeah.
You have to call us to unsubscribe. Why? Like right there, you've lost my trust. Like that is an awful experience. Anybody in the entire world that requires you to call up to unsubscribe from your service, to me, is a bad company. Do not do business with those types of companies. And so there's an example where I no longer trust you, even though you might be a legitimate company, just because you've made the experience bad and questionable in the process. And so thinking
Hmm.
through those types of things, it's not just about the experience of signing up. It's not just about the experience of using your product. It also includes the experience of when I'm no longer interested in your product, you should make the process just as easy. Because if you do, there could be any number of reasons why I'm leaving. It could be like, you know what, just this month, my budget is a little off. I just need to put it on pause or something. Like, ask me if I want to put it on hold. Ask me if it's a pause and I'm going to come back. I may return if you make it easy for me to return, right? And I think so. We have to holistically look at what those experiences are like so that we can build up the trust, so that we can build that equity in the relationship.
License.
I was thinking about like the cable companies or the phone companies when you're talking about that because they always make you call. They always have these retention units or departments where you have to call them in order to like get your good deal back, so that you don't leave. And then only the retention department can give you this like deal. I just find it like really annoying that you have to call every year and ask for the promotional deal that you got from the first place that they're giving all the new people.
Yeah. I mean, I call it borderline corruption, but I've posted about this before. When it is easier for me to call up my credit card company and cancel my credit card or say that my card was lost and I need a new card in order to cancel a subscription somewhere, that's a problem, right? Like, yeah, I'll just cancel my credit card. Then I don't have to call you and try to cancel this service. I, you know, uh,
It's really bad. Like Wells Fargo have a story where my wife has her business and she works out of the house. She's a therapist, and Wells Fargo sent her a notice saying that, hey, we're gonna close your trading account. And then they sent another notice saying no, because they said that the address was incorrect. They said it was a business address and they thought it was fraud. Next thing I know, she logs into her account. It's like, oh my God, all my stocks are gone. It's like, what the hell? And what they did is they took the stocks and they put it into transfer agent. So now the transfer agent owns it. And she's on the phone calling Wells Fargo multiple times and they keep throwing forms at her. And it's like, babe, we're getting to the point where you don't need to stop filling out forms. You need to call an attorney. But the customer experience is so bad because she's literally calling an 800 number, talking to someone in the Philippines about her personal investments. So not cool. And I don't know if that's part of them getting rid of the Glass-Steelgate Act, but it's just horrible. Like these huge companies like Wells Fargo, they're not the only ones. I got B of A, which is equally bad, but they took the action to something to affect her lifestyle. What if she needed that money right away? And just put the burden to get her money back on her.
Yeah.
So what you're saying really resonates with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, bring it back to what we started with, that trust. If you make those experiences bad, then when you're already 1 foot out the door. So then if something else happens on top of that, then yeah, you're out. You're not going back.
Speaking of call centers, did you hear about the Coinbase breach that just happened?
No.
There's a social engineering attack on Coinbase where they lost a ton of data, and it was because their out of country call center basically was gave it away because they were bribed by some bad actors. So how does the out of country versus in the U.S. or call center go into security and experience? Like, what would you tell companies that are using call centers?
Yeah. Well, I'll share a personal experience, right? And I can't remember exactly who the company was, but it was, I believe it was a bank or a credit card company or somebody. And uh, I can't remember exactly what the issue was either. I think maybe it was, we'll say it was a missed payment or something, or a question on my account. And so I get a call and they say, yes, I'm such and such representative from such and such bank. Um, you know, we found a problem, something another. And they said, we need to validate your identity. And, and I was like, I'm not validating my identity. I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we just told you who we were, right? I was like, yeah. So now what's interesting is that it actually was them. It was actually the bank. But I refused to give them the information. And I said, have you not gone through any type of security training whatsoever to realize that the questions that you're asking and the approach that you're taking is suspect, right? I said, now, if you would like to give me an extension, I'll call you back. I'll verify that I'm calling the right number and it's going through the right process and I'm getting right. Like, I'm happy to do that and then validate who I am. But, just the fact that you have, it's one thing if you've got a bad actor who's trying to do this to you, which is a common practice, but to have a legitimate organization do it in the exact same process without realizing that it's the exact same process that a manager would
Mhm.
normally take, that to me was sort of mind-blowing. And yet I think what happens is in these call centers, they know that they are legitimate, that they are not bad actors, and so they kind of get, we'll call it arrogant, or they just forget that, well, I'm legit, so I should, like, the rules don't all of a sudden get thrown out the door. The processes and the policies and the procedures that we should go on to validate this stuff doesn't all of a sudden change. And I think more of the support agents, more of the call centers, more of the management level even should have an understanding of what that process is, or at bare minimum, have a process by which you can validate identity. GoDaddy is great at this. You can call GoDaddy up, and before they'll even talk to you, they'll do a two-factor authentication on your phone with a ID verification to validate you are who you say you are, right? So I think more technology use cases within the call centers would help, because then the process becomes, well, I'm not going to just talk to you and ask you for validation. There's some third party system that can anonymize that validation. Then the call center just gets a yes, this is accurate, or no, it's not. And I think that kind of training has to happen more for sure.
Agreed. There's another one is AI is getting really big, and I noticed you've discussed the balance between AI and human-centric approach. How can AI be leveraged to enhance cybersecurity without compromising the personalized customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI is going to revolutionize security in a lot of ways. We start talking about how do we integrate different types of systems together? How do we, I'm not sure if anybody is movie fans here, but if you ever watched the classic Robert Redford movie Sneakers, then I would I suggest that you go off and find that movie, Sneakers. It is brilliant. But and not to give away the movie if you haven't seen it, but they do a whole scene around voice recognition. Now, what's interesting is AI can clone my voice, and we've already started to see problems in that area. Whereas if you have a clone of my voice, heck, I do a ton of podcasts. Anybody could probably find enough content to clone my voice out there. But theoretically, you could clone my voice. You could dial in and pretend that you're me, and hope that somebody's going to give you access. But I think at the same time, there's just as many AI tools being created to be able to confirm those identities. Oh, this is an AI replica of the voice versus the real thing. We start to get into facial recognition. We start to think about zero-factor authentication that could potentially come about because of identity awareness, aspects within artificial intelligence. I mean, those things I think get really interesting, and I think any AI tool that is going to be able to, further protect identity and make logging in, more secure, yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity for anybody in that AI cybersecurity space.
Can you go back to the zero uh, factor authentication? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, so you're familiar with two-factor authentication, right? And theoretically,
Right.
one-factor authentication is password. Zero-factor authentication is the concept of, do I really have to authenticate? Now, there's a lot of debates around this, because if you think, even if I say voice recognition, well, that's a level of authentication, right? But even if I say, like I have a watch, and let's say that that watch has some sort of AI agent on it, and it has my identity and profile and all that kind of stuff. And let's say I walk into the bank and it scans and it knows who I am so that I don't have to do that. There's technically still an authentication happening in that process. I think what we're trying to achieve is, how do we get to a point where the human, me, does not have to be engaged with that authentication process.
Yeah.
Right now, like I'll give you an example, ludicrous example, but I teach at Southern New Hampshire University, and I would say we're up to like a four-factor authentication. I mean, like I I log into the school, I enter my password. Once I enter my password, it then has to send me a code for a two-factor. I take that code, I validate the code, then I have to put a thumbprint to validate it's me putting in that code, to then
Wow.
come back into the login system to access that, yes, I've done that. I mean, it is ridiculous, especially for a university that has zero problems that they need to really be worried about in terms of the, it's not like we're talking about Fort Knox here, right? And so, yeah, what we are seeing is an overabundance of authentication factors that are not needed. And it's me then that takes 5 minutes to go through all of these steps just to log in so that I can grade somebody's homework assignment, right? Makes no sense. But if we can get it to a point where I am the individual that does not have to actually do anything, and the amount of time that it takes to authenticate is that much faster, now, I think we get into what we would call a theoretical zero factor authentication, although there is, some level of authentication actually happening.
I think the thumb would be enough. Like,
Yeah.
you got your thumbprint. I mean, it's biometric scanner. That should be enough.
But I'll take your Pepsi and I'll take a piece of tape after you leave. And get your thumbprint off there. I've seen it in all.
But I laugh all the time. And look, I don't care what I tell people online. It's like, good luck. But my Gmail account, Google Gmail, I've had the same password on that Gmail account for 10 years. Now, most people are going to say, you're stupid. What are you going to do? Yeah, so you got into my Gmail. Who cares? Right? And not only that, but every time I log in to my phone or into my desktop, it's already on. I don't have to re-log in. I do not have to re-authenticate. Google has managed to figure out a way to know it's me without me telling you it's me, right? And I think that is what more organizations have to figure out. You do not need me to log in with a password every single day, and you do not need a double, triple authentication every single day just to validate, especially when I can do it with my Gmail and I can stay logged in for months without ever having to re-enter my password. So it's just things to think about.
I'm getting like a little bit cringy right now because I'm like, Chris, come on, change your password.
Yeah, I'm getting anxiety over here.
Like, what if somebody gets in your Gmail and then they like reset your password on your bank and then the bank sends it to your Gmail to confirm and then they click yes and then
I can get it
they
all
delete
back.
it before you can see it.
Yeah.
Or when the students gets in there and put you on Rate My Professor and put your password on Rate My Professor. I got all kinds of scenarios going on.
I mean, for me, the reality is I'm a little bit more tech savvy than the average person. So, certain things like that, it's like my social security number. I mean, if you want my social security number, I'll share it with you. Like, what are you going to do with it? Like, as soon as you start to do anything with it, I'm going to know. And then what? But I realize that's not the average person. And I do highly recommend that you change your password once every 30 days and you have at least a 8-digit multi-numeric. You've seen those like the password charts that show how long it would take AI to hack a password based on alphanumerical and symbolic. I'm like, I'm still in the 64 trillion years. Like, you're not going to hack my password anytime soon.
So you need like 12 characters with a number, a symbol, and letters that are hopefully not like easy to guess words. I think 12 is like the magic number where it goes from like hours to years to crack it.
Yeah.
Do you come across a lot of cybersecurity people in your line of work?
I wouldn't say a lot, but yeah, they come around. My son is actually getting ready to go to college, and he is entering cybersecurity. He's going for a cybersecurity degree. And I sat down with him and I said, what do you want to do? And blah, 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 blah. He's like, I want to be in tech. And I said, well, there are two areas that you will always have a job, AI or cybersecurity. Like, doesn't matter. You get a degree in one of those, you are set for life. A couple of years ago, I sent him off to NASA for summer camp, and they had a cybersecurity program. And so he did a summer of cybersecurity. And when he got back, he was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. This is awesome, because they taught him, how to like hack systems and how to, put,
Right.
systems together for security
Cool.
purposes.
So he wants to be like a red teamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to like hack people to test their system, to penetrate the penetration test side of it.
Yep.
That's the fun, creative, sexy side of cybersecurity.
Yeah. So he's gonna get a degree, and so I'm gonna have to brush up a lot more on my cybersecurity while he's in school.
He's gonna put you to the
Yeah.
test. Well, kudos for you. You got to be a proud papa. I mean, he did the thing at NASA, and now he's going to go to school and get a degree in cybersecurity.
Yeah, and you just have to figure out a way to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, that's why you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the real challenge. Suddenly your face changes. Like, yeah, a lot of people better watch this podcast and buy my books.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
Nothing that a
can
little
people buy your
ransomware
book?
won't be able to pay for.
Right.
Yeah. Joe asked a good question. Where can people buy your books?
Amazon is probably the easiest. You can buy them anywhere, really. You can go to Barnes and Noble. You can go to my website, but they're all on Amazon, so you can go find those right there and pop them in your cart. They'll be there in a couple days.
And who'd you write this book for? Like what? Like the CEO, the professional that's trying to get ahead. Like what? Who's your person that like if they read this book it would help the most?
Yeah, both of my books are really intended for senior leadership executives, in any industry. They're valid across industries, and it doesn't matter if you're in technology or if you're on the business side. They're relevant. Really, they're designed for anybody who is interested in learning a little bit more about either customer experience or consumer behavior, artificial intelligence. It covers a wide range of topics, and it's written for really anybody. They're not technical books, so you don't have to feel like you're not going to understand, some of the terminology or wordings within the chapters. And I wouldn't say that they're necessarily heavily business books. They are, I share a lot of personal stories and how those personal stories relate to different aspects of business and technology. We are all consumers ourselves. We were talking about our banking experiences. Those are the types of stories. You put those in and you wrap it around some concepts that will help you in your business. And so, yeah, anybody can read them.
What's your favorite story from your book? Like one that you would pull out and if we were at a bar and I was like asking you like what's your go-to?
I mean, each book has 13 chapters. Each chapter has a story. I still have more stories to tell. I mean, the stories are just things to give some relevance, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first book I started off talking about, I do a lot of stories around movies. I'm a big movie fan. So, and people tend to watch movies, which, resonates. In my first book, I talked about a movie theater that I worked with. And at the time I wrote that, I found out that that movie theater was being gutted to house a Tesla dealership. They,
Oh,
and, I kind of set it up as, it just shows that eventually everything changes and transformation is going to
yeah.
be around us no matter where we look. And so, going from movies to Teslas, is a big transformation, but it's an interesting story to kind of think about how our lives transform and how those lives from a consumer perspective, you have to understand that they are constantly changing, and that technology that you're introducing to your organization has to be able to keep up with whatever they're transforming around as well.
Right. So instead of watching a movie at the movie theater, people are streaming it from their Tesla.
Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you stream movies from your Tesla?
Yeah, sure.
See, you just put it on self-drive and watch the movies.
Yeah. We're not there yet.
We're near.
If I even take my eyes off the road, I get like some alarm. It's like because they're watching me with their cameras, and they're like, "You're not looking at the road. You're playing with your screen too much." So I have to stop doing this and get back to the road.
Isn't that your wife's job?
Michael.
You're married to Elon. You're just driving down the road and Elon's telling you where to put your eyes. Let's see. What are the other things? I was looking at the. We already talked about the customer sensitive strategies for cybersecurity preparedness without having to have 100 multi-factor things every time you go to use your phone. Like I got locked out of my phone from my work email from Outlook, which is really annoying, by the way.
I did want to ask you something. What advice would you give to a leader that just had a breach? He needs to rally his team and communicate with his customers.
Sure. I mean, so I'll say there's two sides of it. There's the what do we tell leaders once they've had a breach? You know, I would say this is a recommendation that I would make for any leader, no matter what the situation is. But be transparent. Like talk. Don't sit there and pretend it didn't happen. Don't try to cover it up. Don't try to hide the fact. Don't wait for some sort of press release. Don't try to massage it into something that looks prettier than it is. Just come out and say what has happened. Transparency is the best way to help you maintain trust. Here's what happened. Terribly sorry. We're here to answer any questions for you. We're going to fix it. Like, that's it. Like, if you can come out and do that, believe it or not, again, most people, a lot of people are going to give you a second chance. So transparency, honesty, communication, just do it. Don't sugarcoat it. On the flip side, for those people, and I don't know, how you kind of approach it or what you recommend out there, but anytime anybody asks me, what should we do to help prevent these types of things happening, I usually boil it down to one simple thing: have a backup. Like, make sure you have a backup. If you have a backup, then you say to the ransom people, thank you for your time, good luck with that, boom boom, new systems up and running. And I think a lot of times the problems that organizations have is that their technology, their stack, their debt, whatever you want to say, is out of date. And so all of a sudden they are in the middle of something. Well, there's nothing we can do about it except for pay. And you've got to be proactive about this. And you've got to be able to say, if we get into this situation, we don't care, because it's not going to impact us or our customers. And you flip a switch and you're good to go.
More like a disaster recovery. So if the system's shut down, there's a recovery that takes over.
Yep.
I would say have a backup for your backup.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay, so this is a good story that this gentleman, CEO of Surefire, was saying at the cybersecurity conference I was at this week. And he said that this company had immutable backups, right? So that means that they aren't like connected at all. Isn't that what that means? It's not connected
exactly.
at all to there's like an air gap, right?
Yeah.
So the CEO of the company that got breached was like, okay, we have a backup, and it's like you couldn't have got to that, right? So this is how creative these hackers are. They made an email acting like they were the director of the company, send it to the immutable backup company, and ask them to delete it. And cancel their account.
Oh man.
And they deleted it and canceled their account. So they had no backups.
Yeah, and of course I want to be kind and not call people out as being idiots. But like, at what point in time do you have part of your disaster recovery plan? You do not delete this under any circumstances, no matter who says you delete it.
Exactly.
Like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to have confirmation of like 3 people before you delete something. Kind of like the nuclear test where you people need the key. They can't be close enough to do two keys at once.
We'll go. It's like the Enterprise. There's a self-destruct sequence, but on the Enterprise, you don't have like Picard, and like it's not just one person issuing the self-destruct. They got three officers that have to validate that before it gets kicked in, right? Yeah, I think things like that you have to think through. What's funny though also is I have been with large companies that have very minimal types of redundancy, backups, whatever you want to call it. And I remember working with a a really small company. I mean, I would say you know I would say maybe they were doing 200 $300,000 in sales a year, so a decent amount but nothing astronomical. They had one office, and maybe they had 1,000 customers, like it was very very small. And the owner of this company insisted on having three backups at regional facilities in like Vegas and in Virginia, and like what are you going to do? Like tornado, earthquake, and hurricane all hit you at once, and you want to make sure that you're covered. I mean, so you got the opposite extreme with some people as well.
I fall into that camp.
Well, you have to trade like expense and safety, right?
Yeah.
Or security, and there's a cost to all that.
I think
every time you back up, it's the same. It's triple the cost to back it up 3 times, right?
Yeah. I think it depends on your industry. Like in healthcare, they're getting hit up a lot. A lot of people are doing, they're hiring ransomware gangs, and it's really unfortunate. Like Planned Parenthood got hit; they have to pay $8 million. So when you start getting into certain industries, it's just the cost of the backups is nothing compared to the liability. And I don't know what's going on, why the hackers are hitting these groups so much, but like healthcare is getting hit hard now.
Well, they have the good data
because it's data that is premium data. I mean,
it's worth a lot on the dark net. That's true.
They can not only can they use it to like create fake healthcare accounts, but they can use it to extort people down the line. That's okay. I know you had an abortion. Do you want me to tell your mom or something like that? These people can get really
Vicious.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it's contingent on what industry you're in.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything else?
Let's see. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on like what is a good customer experience, because we talked a lot about a bad one. Like the different examples. Can you name a company, or I don't even have to name a company? Like, can you give an example of a good customer experience that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good experiences. I mean, and again, I think a lot of it just put yourself in the point of view. What's the last place that you went where you had a good experience? Was it a restaurant, and why was it good? Was it because the hostess was friendly, that you got a seat fast, that the food was yummy, that that the service was quality, or maybe it was you went to have your tires changed, and when you got there, they didn't really try to upsell you. They told you exactly what you needed. They gave you a time that it would take, and it actually was done at that time. They washed your car at the same time before you picked it up. Like, I think all of us understand what we believe is a good experience. But what's interesting is that that doesn't always come across within organizations. They go through what experiences they want to present, even if they're sitting there and saying, well, I wouldn't like this. If I was a customer of my own company, would you like it? And it's amazing how often they might say no. So I think it's about showing up, being present. Look, even if we talk about like fast food right now is going through a massive shift, And that shift is that they are bringing in artificial intelligence and implementing various types of kiosk systems. You go to McDonald's or Taco Bell, you're walking in, there's a kiosk that you have to place an order with. You no longer are really talking with somebody who is taking your order. And this is what gets really interesting. Some people will argue, well, with the kiosk, my order is going to be correct. I don't have to worry about language barriers. I don't have to worry about trying to explain the custom order that I want. I can log in, I can pick what I want, and it's going to come out. But what we've actually seen is that there's still a human that has to read the order and still a human who has to make the order, in which case there's no guarantee that order is going to come out correct. And so what you've done is you've put technology in front of the experience. You could argue that the technology is now the experience, but we as humans also like human to human connection. We want to place an order sometimes with a human. And so we're starting to see how experiences are changing because of AI and different types of technologies. And I think I go to like the grocery store as a good example. At the grocery store, I have self checkout, or I could still check out with an attendant, with somebody who's going to support me. And I get the option. Well, options create for good experiences because in that moment, me, individual, for my shopping experience, if I have an option, I get to pick, and that makes my experience better. Just like you might pick something completely different, but then that's your choice, which makes that experience better. So I think the more we provide options, the more we maintain the human connection. Those are all critical factors. Everything else is built on, do I get what I need? Do you solve the problem? Do you do it when you say you're going to do it? Is it of value to me? Is it at a cost that is, cheap or expensive, depending upon what I want? And as long as that value and my expectations are met, then you could claim that, that was a good experience. Anything you do on top of that, like I said, if I go and I get my tires changed and I come and pick my car and they've washed my car, that's an unexpected benefit where I then say, wow, man, that was really good experience. So you got to kind of think of that in those types of stages.
I think you even went over like questions companies can ask themselves in order to kind of decide how they can create a good experience. So, that was a really good answer.
But it's important because a lot of times I lead companies, and churn's something that a good experience has to address. Like there's we always talk about the cost of customer acquisition. But a lot of companies don't talk about the cost of churn, because it costs a fortune to get someone to sign a contract that says, hey, I'm going to pay you every month for the next 3 years. But that person, if they have a bad experience, will fight to get out of the contract. I know I'm one of those people because it's just, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend.
Thanks so much.
And tell your son he made the right choice.
I will.
Great. And everyone go to chrishood.com. Check out Chris's website and learn more about him and his business and his books. And we wish you much luck. And thank you for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We read all our comments too. If you want to put a comment on, how you make a good experience for your company, we'd love to hear that. And we will see you on the next one.
Take care, Chris.
Thanks so much.